Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us for our live webinar with Amy Hatmaker of UHV Career Development Services. And today we're going to focus on the unique hiring solutions that our Career Development Services office provides. Before we get started, I am going to take a couple minutes and I'm going to run through some tips that will make this session run smoothly for you and will help you get the most out of our time here. I am Jean Smith. I am the training coordinator at the University of Houston, Victoria Small Business Development Center. And as you join in the webinar, go ahead and put your name and where you're joining us from in the question box. We are recording today's webinar, and you will receive a link to the recording. And I've asked Amy to share her slides with me so I can share them with you. In addition, we do have a handout. Excuse me. And if you have difficulty getting the handout from the webinar, don't worry about it. I will send you a copy in a follow-up email, and most likely that email will come tomorrow. In addition, your mics are muted and your webcams are off, and that's so that the internet doesn't lag. You know, it's no fun to watch a webinar where the slide's frozen or you've got the little circle in the center of it going round and round. We don't want that to happen for you. Let me tell you a little bit about the University of Houston, Victoria Small Business Development Center. We provide business advising and training at no cost to 11 counties in South Texas. So our area is right here in the red. Those are the 11 counties that we serve. We are part of a larger network called the Texas Southwest SBDC network, and that is here on the map in the blue, 79 counties. In addition, there are 5 specialty centers that are at UTSA in San Antonio, and all those resources are available to our clients. If you're not in our service area, don't worry, because there are over 1,000 SBDCs across the nation, and you can find yours by visiting www.americassbdc.org. We are funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the Small Business Administration and with the state of Texas. That enables us to provide our advising at no cost to the small business. So if you are not taking advantage of our services, we highly suggest that you sign up and take advantage of them today. I have put the link for finding out a little bit more about us. You can see our website link in the chat. I will note our business advisors do not provide legal or tax advice, and we are not the Small Business Administration. In addition, we provide a variety of training programs just like today's program. They're offered to anyone at little to no cost. In addition, by attending our webinar today, you receive a complimentary email copy of our newsletter. There's no obligation and you can unsubscribe at any time. And again, these are the ways that you can get in touch with your SBDC. Now, let me tell you about our platform. We use GoToWebinar, and so it has some really handy dandy little tools for our attendees. Up here above my and Amy's video camera pictures, you will see this. What I want to say is if you like what you see on the screen and you want to save it, just click here on screenshot. It will save a copy of whatever's on the screen to your desktop. And our tip is after the webinar, go rename that because it assigns the generic name to that file. And we want you to remember what exactly you were saving from the screen. Now, if you would, please go ahead and raise your hand and let me know that you are able to hear me. That tells me that all the technology is working okay. Thanks, Gwendolyn. I appreciate it. And we have Rick who's joined us, Mike, perfect. Now, if you're not hearing me and you need help, first of all, log out and back in. If it doesn't work, please contact GoToWebinar at this phone number. This is how you see, and as you can see here in the chat, these are the ways that you can find us. You can also find our list of trainings that are available for you to take. So make sure that you are utilizing all the tools to grow your small business. Now, you can ask a question at any point during the webinar. We are going to try and hold those questions till the end to be answered. But as you think of your question, go ahead and type it in here, and I will see that, and I will make sure that Amy is shared the question and is able to answer that for you. Now, as I said, remember, we are recording this, so don't worry that you're going to miss something. At the end of the session, when we all leave here today, this will open to a browser screen. We have a 1-minute 5-question survey, and your answers drive what our training program looks like. That's very important to us. So please take the time when we leave here today to take that survey. So the mission of the University of Houston-Victoria Career Development Center is to guide students and alumni in career planning, to provide workshops and training to help link students with employers, and to serve as a resource for professional development. Amy is the director of the UHV Career Development Center. She has her BA from the University of Houston-Victoria and her MA from the Texas A&M University Corpus Christi. She transitioned into higher education after spending much of her career in the nonprofit sector. She has served on several local boards and currently serves as a publications director for the American Association for Employment and Education. And she's also the president-elect of the Houston Area Consortium of Career Centers. She has presented at both national conferences and system leadership conferences on topics related to career development. In her spare time, and I'm not sure where she finds this, but she is an adjunct professor of history with the University of Houston-Victoria, and she also works to assist grad students by editing their thesis and dissertations. And I think that makes her a very, very busy person. And if you will give me just a moment here, a virtual moment, we are going to make Amy the presenter, and we're going to jump right in to our presentation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited that y'all are all here. I'm excited to share. I'm always excited to share information with employers about how to connect with our school and with our students. Couple of things. If you have questions, please try to hold those if you can. Jean, is there a way to move this out of the way?
Okay, and what do you?
Let me turn off my camera. I'll turn off my camera now so I'm not a distraction.
Okay.
All right.
I see your slide. You're good to go.
All right. So what we're going to talk about today is recruiting student talent, and I'm going to cover all the ways that that's possible. So the first, we're going to talk about the different kinds of experiential learning that we offer out of the center, how to connect with UHV for that talent. I'm going to talk about the guidelines and requirements for getting student workers involved in your business and the different kind of agreements that we'd have to have in place for that to happen. The first thing that most employers, I think, struggle with is really determining where their need exists. Think about what you're going to be using that student for. Is it project-based? Do you just need like one really big project done that none of your existing staff have time? That's a good internship or short-term employment kind of option. Is it something you want to introduce someone to all elements of your business to where it's a rotating program? Are you looking more for operational support, for someone to help the front desk out at certain times of the day, or do clerical kind of work? Who is going to be available to supervise the student? The kind of training that they're going to need to have to be part of your organization, and space. Do you have a space for them? A lot of times, and now that isn't as big of an issue with some organizations offering remote internships right now, but it's something that you need to think about, because a lot of times employers contact the university and want help with interns, but really what they're describing is more of a part-time job and not really something that would exist as an internship. And so knowing that what exactly your needs are is going to be the most important part. Now, the easiest way to connect, say you do decide that really just a part-time job is all you need, the easiest way to connect with us is via the Handshake platform. That is what we brand as our local jobs for JAGs, but it is a platform that's used by employers internationally. And so our students know to go to that to look for jobs. It's incredibly easy for employers to use. You can post jobs, you can post any number of jobs you want for free. You can see what events we are offering on campus, as well as when registration opens, you can register for them on campus and set up a schedule. You can easily connect with other institutions. While I would love nothing more for you to recruit nothing but UHV Jaguars, you may need someone that has a degree in something we don't have or don't offer. And there are a lot of institutions that use Handshake. So VC, for example, is a prime example. They have a lot of the more industrial oriented jobs, whereas we have the students that are training, where we have students that are those that are seeking 4-year advanced degrees. So if you need to hire both, it's an easy way to connect with both organizations at once. There's a lot of my colleagues at other schools that also use the Handshake platform. It's very widely used in career services areas, so you can connect easily with other institutions. Virtual events are offered periodically. We do have face-to-face events, but we do still offer our virtual events so that distant students can be a part of hiring events. And it also gives you broader reach. It lets people know, or if you're just not comfortable coming to campus. If you want to schedule on-campus interviews, you can request that through Handshake, and you can even search for students. So if you have certain criteria or certain programs that you need the student to know, you can put that in and search and get a list of students. So the Handshake, I would strongly recommend that everybody get that. Now, to partner with us for experiential learning, we offer 3 kinds of experiential learning opportunities. Externships, which are basically a short-term job shadow. They really commit you to nothing except having a student on your premises for a few days. That is kind of job shadowing one of your staff members. There's work study, which can be a really great option for many organizations. It can be a little harder for-profit institutions, and we'll talk about that. And then we have the traditional internships. For the externships, what we do is we have the Jaguar Career Extern Program, and it is an organized job shadowing program. Students submit an application to be a part of the program. Employers volunteer to be part of the program. We usually offer it at the conclusion of a standard semester. So we're not rebooting it just yet this fall, but we'll be rebooting it after the spring semester. So that would be early May. The time frame is just a couple of days. So if you want a student to come to your business and see what your business is like, shadow one of your professionals or even yourself, it's just whatever time you can spare, that a student will not be in your way, basically, but still get a good feel for what your job is like. For that, there's no cost at all or commitment unless you want to buy the student lunch, which they usually enjoy. But all you have to do for that is when we send out notice that it is time to apply for the extern program, you just send a request letter to us saying what type of position you are hoping to have a student shadow. what you are wanting the student to learn, what you think the student can learn. If there's a certain major or classification that you're looking for, that is helpful to us. So when we go to match students with you, and then the number of days that you're available. What we'll generally do is we'll have an orientation with those students, and then we'll have a lunch that kickoff week so that you can come and meet the student that will be showing up at your business, and you have some advanced knowledge of who they are and what to expect. Now, we do have federal and work study options, which can be really good for business. It's a financial aid program. The time frame on that is pretty open, and the cost will vary by the student and by the type of the award that they get and the amount of the financial award. So these are students that, after all their grants and scholarships have come in to focus, they still show remaining financial need. And so it's a way for the federal government to funnel extra money to the students, but they do it through a work program. And we are encouraged to partner with off-campus employers. For nonprofits, it's a different percentage, but for for-profit businesses, it generally costs 50%. So how it would work is the student would work for you, report to you, answer to you, but they would be paid by the university. And at the end of the semester, we would bill you for 50% of whatever was paid to the student, plus any associated payroll costs. Now, one thing to know with for-profit businesses, your work study student has to be in a field that they're majoring in. So it can be a little bit like finding a unicorn. So the job has to fit the student's major. So you couldn't, for example, use it for a clerical job or part-time clerical support. But if you needed part-time bookkeeping support, and we have accounting majors that still have financial need, then that is an ideal student. But sometimes it can take a little longer to make those connections. So be aware of that. You also have to make sure those jobs meet those federal or state guidelines. And that, a lot of that is going to be written into the contract. Some of it is nothing y'all even need to worry about. Most of it's going to be related to, is it a job in their major that they can count as learned work experience. There is a contract that will need to be put into place between the university and the agency, the work study contract, because it does list some of those federal requirements. Then it is a little longer and a little different than our standard affiliation agreement. The other thing we would need from you is basically a request letter, which is a description of your agency, the benefit that the work study program would be to you and to the student, and how many students you would ideally like to have in a perfect world. And what is your plan for that position if we get to a point where, say, the student's award is used up? Are you going to keep that student as an employee for the rest of the semester, or do you plan to terminate them? Because obviously we're going to prefer those organizations that are going to try to keep those students employed. So those are things to think about, and we can talk over the requirements a little more specifically based on your situation. If any of you are involved with nonprofits, organizations, I would suggest you encourage them to talk to us about a partnership, because for them it can be even cheaper. And I know a lot of our local nonprofits have used several of our work study students, and for them, they also don't have the same major requirements. So again, work study can be great. It's not always easy to find for for-profit agencies, but contact us with your needs and we'll see what we can do. And then we have internships. Now, internships are career-oriented. The time frame is generally over an academic semester, The cost is usually determined by how much you are willing to spend on that student, basically. Now, there's a lot of benefits to internships, not just for the student, but for the employers as well. It creates a pool of talent that you can recruit from. If it's a good way to pilot kind of more or less someone that you are potentially interested in bringing in full time, or even if you just want to see what up and coming talent there is. It really can strengthen your relationship with the campus because you'll hear more by having the student around about the kind of things that are happening here, when there's going to be recruitment events, when we're going to have special meetings of student orgs. The other benefits, students make really good ambassadors of your organizations, because if they're enjoying their internship and they're having a really great time, they're telling their friends, they're telling other people, oh man, you should try to get an internship with this place. The other thing, and the science has been real clear about this, studies have been clear, it seems to increase productivity of other staff. A lot of times an intern can free them up from tasks that are time consuming. So it's easier for an intern to do it, and then you can focus on bigger projects, or your staff can focus on bigger projects. And so, and also they have fresh ideas, they have fresh thoughts on how to approach things. They know pretty much all the latest technology that's available. So there's a lot that a student can bring. Now, there is some benefit to the student, obviously. They get a really good understanding of what it's going to be like to work in that career field, to develop those professional skills. Because remember, a lot of our students here now, especially our residential students at Victoria, are trending more towards that 18 to 22 age range. Many of them have never had a professional job in a professional environment. And so this is a chance for them to learn and develop some of those things and gain some experience. There is, I can't even tell you how many entry-level jobs now require experience. So for many of our majors, if they don't get experience while they're in school, they're behind the ball when they graduate. And so we really emphasize the importance of internships with all of our students, because it will give them some meaningful experience that they can use for their resume. They also can develop a network of professionals that can potentially give them good references, or maybe know about jobs for the future. They're also viewed as better candidates upon graduation. Students that complete internships are more likely to have postgraduate career success and be employed within 6 months of graduation than students that don't. So internships are good for both sides. They're good for the employer as well as the students. Now, there are some legal issues that you need to be mindful of if you're thinking you want an intern. The best practice, okay, Department of Labor is very clear on this. The best practice is to pay your student interns. There have been some really major lawsuits over the last 10 to 12 years that have kind of redefined what can be an unpaid internship and what cannot be called an unpaid internship. And so you need to look back and review what is standard for your industry. Again, we can help with that if you're not sure. The only organizations that are exempt from that, according to the Department of Labor, or the public agencies like like the municipalities or county government and nonprofit agencies. But even then, if payment is an option, we encourage that, because you get a better candidate if the job is paid, because sometimes that can be a hard sell for our department, because the students have to pay for the class. And if they have to then do it, work for free under the promise that someday it'll pay off, that's a pretty hard sell. Plus, a lot of our students can't afford that, to be honest. They just can't afford to work for free. And so one of the things, there is an option to provide a stipend instead if at the end, the completion of the internship. But again, that needs to be upfront and decided ahead of time. The biggest thing that is an issue for many of our intern partners, a lot of it's going to hinge on that job description. So that there should be a job description that is comprehensive enough that the faculty can look at that and say, yes, the student will learn as much as they would have going to a job or going to class 3 hours a week, right? So if the learning is the same, they can get approved for credit. And again, that's a student by student basis, but the job description needs to tell us a little bit about your agency if we don't already know what it is. We have to know what the responsibilities of the intern are going to be and what learning objectives you'd like to see the students achieve, any required knowledge, skills, and abilities that you would like to see. Now, keep in mind, internships for credit are mainly going to be juniors and seniors. Most of them will have had at least 4 upper division classes in their major before they can get approval to get an internship for credit. But if there's anything specific that you need them to know, or say maybe you only want seniors, you don't want juniors at all, put that in there. Put what major you're hoping for. If you have a GPA preference or you prefer they've had a certain course, that should be in there. It's like a standard job description, basically, except for the learning objectives. Anticipated hours for the intern, the duration of the internship, and whether or not you'll take international applicants. Now, a lot of people are scared to consider international students because of the process of attaining an H-1B visa. Now, international students are allowed to do an internship in their field if they've met certain requirements, and they get temporary work authorization and can even be paid for the course of the internship. And some of these international students are some of our really strongest students, and many of our local employers are hesitant to accept them. And so I really would encourage you to rethink that and at least give a student an opportunity to do an internship, because you'll be surprised. You'll learn a lot about another culture, and it's a really great opportunity to kind of be an ambassador for Victoria. And it really, if you say no whatsoever, that cuts out a lot of students from being able to apply for your opportunity. The other thing, if there are upfront costs that the intern would need to bear, generally this doesn't happen, but we do have, for example, one nonprofit agency that the students have to pay for their own background check. But we know that going in, it's a minimal amount, and I have to be able to tell them that up front. So if there are any upfront costs that the students we need to be aware of that ahead of time so our students can make plans. Now, when you're deciding on the pay, you also want to think about who's the primary beneficiary. And basically, if you cannot prove that you're not going to make money off that intern's labor, then you can not pay them, basically. But that's the rule with the primary beneficiary test. And if you have questions about that, you can reach out to me, and we can go over what those are and whether or not your particular agency would be exempt. Now, the learning objectives, again, we require those in the job description because it's critical. It's important that the students learn professionally what to to do, what to expect, and what they're going to be learning. And we want that in the job description, because again, it helps the student understand what you expect them to, their outcome to be. And it will help the faculty supervisor approve the internship and know how to evaluate it. Because remember, if you're going to do it for credit, the student is enrolled in a class and is working with a faculty member throughout the semester. The main thing with the learning objectives, make sure they're measurable and attainable. So you don't want to give them something that it would take years for them to master in your job, right? For one semester. That's not probably going to be attainable, but they can make progress towards it. So again, make sure that they are attainable and measurable. The other thing we ask employers to do with our student interns is to do some evaluations. Depending on the program, those could look different from one another. For example, School of Business or College of Business wants more of a written report, whereas the School of Natural and Applied Sciences or Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, many of them will contact you and conduct like an interview with you about the student's progress, or some may just give you basically what looks like a job evaluation. We would like for you also to sit down with the student at the end of the semester and talk about what they accomplished, evaluate how they did, give them advice that they might need moving forward, and take that time to give them an exit interview. And be sure to communicate if the faculty reaches out to you about the student's progress. Make sure you report that back to the faculty, because a lot of times that's going to be factored into the student's grade. And so you want to make sure you follow up on that. So best practices, if you want to develop an internship program, be mindful of our timelines. For example, right now, we are already working on solidifying the internships that are going to happen in the spring and trying to find students for that. And because the spring semester is going to be here before we know it. And it's definitely not too early to start looking at that. The other thing, if you can at all pay the student, plan to pay the student. It is, again, many of our students are, if you're not aware, many of our students are first generation. A lot of them don't have financial support from their families, or many of them are sending money back home. And so you will, if you make your internship unpaid, you will eliminate it as an option for a large number of our potential student candidates. The other thing, make sure to treat them like they're a part of your team. It doesn't happen often, but occasionally the interns have felt like they were more like in the way than anything. They weren't introduced to the other team members. They weren't invited to social events when the groups would get together. So make sure to include them. Okay, you're going to get better results if they feel like they're part of your organization. If a concern arises about that intern's behavior or something that they have done, communicate with the faculty supervisor as soon as possible, or with this office if help is needed. Obviously, if something egregious happens, you have the authority and the right to terminate that internship immediately. But if it's just you're having trouble keeping them off the phone, okay? Remember, again, they are students. They're youngsters. It's probably their first exposure to a professional environment. And so some of those professionalism kind of things you will need to go over with them in advance, okay? Give them a chance to correct their behavior if you can. And then contact us, and we will also reach out to the student and try to do some mediation. Again, if there's a egregious error or issue, let us know immediately and you can take whatever action needs to be taken. We will need to alert the faculty and this office. So, but that, to my knowledge, has only happened once since I've been here. And that was the student just didn't show up. And so it wasn't anything, it was egregious. And the student did get terminated from that internship, but it wasn't like breaking a confidentiality law. Okay, that falls into a different category. So again, as much as you can, remember that they are students, that they're youngsters, and try to give them a little bit of grace on that. Now, if you have any questions about any of this, because I know this is kind of a quick walkthrough, or if you want more information or on developing that internship or the majors that we offer, you can contact me or you can contact Camilla Sutton, who is our assistant director. She also helps with the work study and internship program. Shelby Ayala is our coordinator. Her role is primarily to work with the students, but she can be a good resource for you if you are looking for a particular student or a particular kind of student. Or she can always answer questions if Camilla and I are not available. We also have student staff that we rely on very heavily to help us in our office. Marilyn Medina is our lead student director. And then Peyton Fales is our peer advisor. She works more with students, but Marilyn kind of handles our front office area and helps with events and those kind of things. But she can also help with job postings if you just need someone to help you post a job or you have questions about Handshake or anything like that. Marilyn is a great source of information. And then we have our student directors, Natalie Carrasco, Peyton Elizabeth, and Sanjana. And they are all great resources and they're great people to talk to and they can help you with any of these things. So again, connect with us on Handshake. That's probably the biggest first step. And then if you want to inquire about having an extern or starting an internship program or even finding out if you do have a possible work study opportunity that would be a good fit for some of our students, then please reach out to Cami or I. We would absolutely love to get more students interning. We had the biggest number ever intern over this past summer. We had, I think it was 18 different students interning all over the Victoria area. We had 4 at the city. We had a few in Houston. And so it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see that students are really wanting to get involved in that, getting that learning ahead of time, and as well as that employers are excited about providing these opportunities for our students. So that is what I have. I'm going to leave our contact information. Let me take that off, quit sharing so that Jean can take over for me again.
Oh, no, I don't think I could quite do your job. I don't think I have all the background and that you do have. And this is really a unique answer to some of the hiring problems that people are having today. I know that one of the other center directors has said that he reaches out to students when they start as freshmen and sophomore. And, you know, internships can be, you know, a student can have multiple ones, but, you know, they start creating those relationships early in their education.
Right. In fact, Marilyn, our lead student director, because of the internship she did at the city over the summer, she is in process of interviewing for her dream job right now. So we may actually be losing Marilyn before too much longer, but and again, she didn't plan on starting it here in Victoria, but she realizes this would be a good place to start, and it will help her get to her next milestone. So again, it's, you know, it does happen, but we do stress, and that, I know if any of y'all have worked with our office before, we used to be called the Career Services Office. In fact, I think my shirt still says that. But we did rebrand to the Career Development Center, which is something I'd asked for when I took over the helm a while back, because I feel like with our freshmen and sophomore, it's a more accurate description of what we do. So many of the students come in here and they think they understand what they're going to do for a living, but they don't know all of the pieces of that. And so we try to get to them as early as humanly possible so that they can get some work experience, so they can do the job shadowing, so they can start making connections at some of our networking events that we have for employers. And it really is a huge difference. The number one predictor, according to the National Association of Colleges and Employers, of postgraduate career success is the number of internships a student did and GPA. I always tell students that all the time. I'm like, those of you who've said, people who've said your GPA doesn't matter, they're wrong. It does matter, especially for many of this organizations, the larger organizations our student wants to work for, like the FBI, for example. They have a new graduate program, but if you don't kind of get in their sights early on, and if you don't have the right GPA to get into it, then it's too bad. And if we can't get to the students early enough, then a lot of times, if they wait till senior year, they're to come darken my doorway, then it's going to be a lot harder for those students in most cases, especially the ones that have no work experience whatsoever. And I do see that. Again, remember that UHV is not the UHV it was when I went to school here. You know, we were still the upper division only, and it was more of a non-traditional student population. And now we have what looks like any college campus anywhere. A lot of young students and inexperienced students, and they need someone to give them that opportunity and to give them those breaks. And so some people like, well, we don't really have the money to do an internship program now, but maybe I'd like to have a student job shadow for a few days to see if it would work to bring a student into my space. So that can be a way, no real commitment at all, except just to host the student for a few days and let them ask you some questions about your career. So that's like the lowest impact way you can get involved with the students and see if that's something you want to pursue. Also, for those that think, well, really an internship is not something that I have, but I do have part-time jobs. We have a part-time job fair on campus the first week of school every fall. Because again, most of our students need jobs. And that's absolutely free for area employers. And the date on that will go out pretty soon because we will know when the fall semester will be starting. We also, if you have a big hiring need, like you're getting ready to take on a big project and you want to come set up a table in one of the buildings and talk to students and try to hire them for a temporary job, we partner with employers all the time to do that. So there's lots of ways that you can get involved in campus that won't cost you any money at all. The only thing we really charge for as the development center is some of our face-to-face job fairs, and that's largely to cover our own operating costs for the event. And that's really it. We don't charge for anything else at this point. So the face-to-face events are it. Now, sometimes we seek sponsorship, and we always welcome community agencies that are partners for that. But if you want to just come table and try to recruit people on campus, there's no charge for that now.
And we do have a couple questions, and
Great.
I will remind the folks who are attending our webinar today, go ahead and type your question there in the bottom of the question box, and we'll get Amy to answer it. So Mark would like to know what the work-study hourly rate is.
Okay, the work-study hourly rate, generally, we want you to, if you're not at the minimum of the UH, because remember, they're UHV employees technically, but they work for you, and that's who they're going to call for a reference. Because our student rate has gone up to $9 an hour, that is the minimum that we want people to pay. However, if you pay part-time employees above that, like if you were to pay a part-time secretary, for example, $12 an hour, and that is the regular rate for your organization, you can't say, but we're only going to hire students at $9 an hour, because that's really not legal. So whatever is generally, but remember, if your rate is too high, it'll eat up their award faster. So it's a kind of a balancing act, but we can work through that. Again, I would say it would depend on the job you're having them do. If it's going to be a work study position where they're going to be doing bookkeeping, for example, that's a pretty high skill job. You could potentially have them for a couple of years. And so while you can start them lower, you would want to increase that to closer what they would be getting as somebody with a degree by the time they graduate. So there is some movement. The minimum you're going to pay, we have a handbook for off-campus employers so that you can kind of look at all of the guidelines and see our pay scale. And I would hope that $9 is not an exorbitant minimal on most of the jobs that I see. I think that's, and anymore, you're not going to get a lot of applicants if you go with just the federal minimum wage, because students can make a lot more money doing other things. And especially for those that are in their positions in their major, those tend to be a little more specialized, so they should get towards the higher end of that.
And just to kind of tag on to that, are work study programs offered in the summer as well? And that's a great question from Ashley. Thanks, Ashley.
Yes. Yes. Now, again, it depends on the student, but if the student is enrolled for summer classes, you can still keep them through the summer, unless you want to put them on your payroll for the summer. And many of our employers do that. They'll have work study during the school year, but then during the summer, they'll just pay the student outright if they want to keep them, or during Christmas break, if they want them to stay a little longer, they'll just pay them instead of going to the work study funds for that. But again, those are some things that we could work out based on each company is going to have kind of a unique situation. And it's a little harder, like I said, to get for-profit passed through the system, but we have, and so it's not impossible. But again, it can be a little bit like finding a unicorn, because you got to find the student that's in that major that also has financial need. Now, again, a lot of our students have financial needs, so that's not always the hard part. The other thing, a lot of our students don't have transportation, and that is harder for some, at least on this side, on the Victoria side. A lot of students come to us without a vehicle because they don't really need one to get around the campus, and they don't want to pay for the parking fees. But we also, they're young, so we see students sometimes that don't even have a driver's license, which is weird to me. My generation, we couldn't wait to start driving, but I guess that's not the case anymore. But so that can be an impediment too, to getting someone. Sometimes they may not have a way to get to that job. So that can be a little harder to work, but it's not impossible. I know we found some, in fact, for some SBDC clients, we've had a couple that have worked as a bookkeeper, as a matter of fact. So there is a way for that to happen.
Okay, and then Jason would like to know what types of companies are using the work study program in Victoria, and about how many do we have doing that?
We don't have a lot that are using it, the for-profit agencies that are using it. That is right now, we've had two that since I've been in the Career Development Center, which has been 12 years, I guess now. We've had two. A lot of it is because people don't know that it's available. And again, a lot of it is that, you know, a lot of times, again, they want someone just part-time to answer the phones, and that is not what the work study program is designed for. At least for it, it can be used that way for nonprofit. We have a lot of contracts with the area nonprofits. We've had students work with the Chamber of Commerce. We've had students work with the Boys and Girls Club. In fact, they still have students over there. The Adult Literacy Council, when it was still in existence, we've had students work at the Y, at the food bank. So we've had our nonprofit partnerships are many more, but we have had one of the local hospitals has used a work study student, computer science student, and that was way back when. And then we also have had a student work for a flooring company here, and that's the more recent one. And that was the one that was one of the SBDC clients. So again, it's not impossible, but you just have to really think about what job. What happens a lot of times is people call and they think they're going to get free work study labor, and I have to tell them, no, it doesn't work that way. There's no program we have that just gives you free people. Well, not right now, you know, not for-profit businesses, no. But you know, it just, yeah, that's not what it's for. But there are ways for you to partner with us to get that labor and to get those students. And again, students can be a delight to have in your office. I have more energy and more focus when the student directors are around than when they're not. It's just their enthusiasm is a little infectious, and so it can be, if you've not had a student working with you, sometimes it can be frustrating. Again, remember, they're 18 years old. Many of them never had a job before. And so sometimes they do things that will make you shake your head and wonder how they've learned that. But they also, again, they know they can do the new any technology 10 times faster than I can in most cases, and are a lot more comfortable with certain situations. So they can be a real delight to have in your office.
Okay, and I will say I put the link to Handshake. That is the app that Career Development utilizes for employers and students, and you can go in and post your jobs and see what upcoming events are. I post that in the chat, but I'll also be including that in the follow-up email.
Okay.
Now, Stephanie has a question. She has a school, but it's not accredited, so it's not available for student teaching credit. But are there other options that, let me just make sure I read this right. So to bring in students as tutors instead of teachers. Is that something like you would say, Stephanie, call me, come by and visit?
Yes, yeah, because there is a way to use students as tutors, especially if it's I assume it's a nonprofit institution. So yes, there is a way to get tutors. and that is usually not a problem. But yeah, she should definitely contact. Camilla is out this week, so she can contact me if you need to contact me this week. Next week, I will be at a conference in Charlotte, so you won't be able to. I will be checking email and stuff like that, but it'll be hard for me to return a lot of calls or anything like that. But I'll have my phones forwarded to my staff, and so again, some of those questions they can answer, or they can get a hold of me to answer that for you. But that would be a situation where you could reach out for us. With it, again, you're right, with it not being accredited, you can't do the student teachers, but we should be able to get you some tutors. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. And let me just check. I want to see if there's any other questions here. I am not seeing any. So I really want to thank everybody for being here. You know, hiring through the career development is really a unique opportunity. It's a unique opportunity for our students, but also for our local businesses. And you would just be amazed how enriched your workplace can be when you have a student, whether they're an intern or they're an extern for a couple of days, and they figure out what in the world the job world is all about in the field they think they want to go in, or it's part of work study, or you just hire them part-time, or you're providing maybe a job to somebody who's graduating and ready for that first full-time job. So we are so happy you all have been here with us today.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I appreciate being invited to speak to y'all, and I know that was kind of a quick overview, but it's we're more than happy to answer any questions, and we love employers to get involved on campus, because we offer a lot of opportunities just to come talk to students, just sit down and chat about your career and what you like, what about your job, what you don't. So it's a good way to get word out about your business and stay involved on campus.
Okay, well, Amy, I want to thank you for taking time from your schedule. I know you're busy. When you're not in the office working, you are also teaching, and that's a big job too.
Yeah.
I want to remind everybody before you leave, you are going to get a copy of the link to today's recording. Amy will be sharing her slides with me, and I will also share them with you. In addition, we'll put the handout in that email so you know how to contact Amy and her staff. Don't forget, when you leave here, your browser window is going to open to our 5-question 1-minute survey. Those are real important because your comments, your answers are what drive what our training program looks like. And I want to thank everybody for taking that time today. Even though it's Tuesday, my kids tell me, "Oh, Mom, it's just the Monday do-over." I don't know about that. But we're glad to have everybody here, and we will see you at the next webinar. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jane.